Today we're talking about one of our most popular episodes so far, and this episode discusses Huey P. Newton's time in jail. Okay, so it was actually during this time that Huey found himself the most free he's ever been in his entire life. He says it in his autobiography entitled Revolutionary Suicide. I suggest you guys check it out. It's a great read. He talks about how him being confined in what he calls, what the prisoners call the soul breaker, right? Extreme solitary confinement, all right? The highest level of solitary confinement you can get. While he was in there, he worked on himself. Now, that might sound ridiculous because he had no choice, but he truly did. He gained an inner peace, right? And the ability to control his mind, to filter through his thoughts, stop them, right? Make them go forward, make them move backwards, make them fast forward, make them rewind. All right? He had that ability. What he learned was if you don't know how to control your thoughts, then you really are a slave to your own mind, right? And it's only without external stimuli, right? We got this light here, we got these books, we got this microphone, we got a whole bunch of stimuli. There's sounds, as cars fly past my window, making all that noise in the background. So the mind is constantly distracted and given stimuli, right? So it's never having to focus and be completely silent on one thing. And when you're in extreme solitary confinement, what you learn is that when your mind has nothing to be distracted by, how do you proceed to reconcile with that silence, right? And that's what Huey does during his confinement. Now, we talked about it. We got some notes here. This was in 1964. Okay, so he got in trouble for stabbing someone at a party. He was accused, allegedly, right, of stabbing a man in self-defense. He claimed to prevent imminent bodily harm, right, which is the self-defense standard. He stabbed this guy. Usually he represents himself, but this time he did not, and honestly, it didn't really matter. This thing's bothering me. Honestly, it really didn't matter. He's really eloquent, and usually he would win his cases because he would represent himself, but this time it didn't work. The jury convicted him. He was given 6 months in jail. Okay, so during this 6 months in jail, he was given a kind of a leadership role over the other prisoners, right? Because he was a good speaker, he was educated, he seemed educated, he was smart. And during this time, there's a riot, and he was accused of being one of the organizers. So they threw him in maximum solitary confinement, right? In a place called the Soul Breaker. So he describes this extreme solitary confinement as the end of the world, right? The end of the world, as a literal hell on earth. And this is a direct quote, you can be in jail, but the soul breaker is your last end of the world. In 1964, here were two of these deprivation cells at the Alameda County Jail courthouse. Each was 4.5 feet wide by 6 feet long by 10 feet high. So we're talking just a little over the height of a full-grown man, about as wide as this table and about as long as a man is, about a 6-foot man, right? So a cage, a literal animal cage. The floor was dark red rubber tile and the walls were black. So they painted the walls black, which is trippy in of itself. And then the floor was rubber. So you couldn't just smash your own head into the floor to kind of kill yourself. You couldn't even do that. There was no escape. And what he talks about is how the guards could really play with your mind, right? They could turn on the light in the ceiling or they could turn it off. Usually they gave you one small blanket. Huey never got any blankets. There was a tiny hole in the floor, and it was really, really small, maybe a few inches deep. And that's where you had to go to the bathroom in. And they only gave you 2 squares of toilet paper per day. So you were pooping all over the place, right? And he was always naked, and he was always kept in the dark, right? And this was mostly because Huey refused to grovel. He refused to beg. He refused to kind of capitulate to their demands, right? There was no no bunk, no sink, no toilet. Nothing but bare floor, bare walls, a solid steel door, and a hole. That's what we talk about. 4 inches wide, 6 inches deep in the middle of the floor. All right, so, quote, when I first went in, I wanted to eat and stay healthy, but soon I realized that was another trick because when I ate, I had to defecate. At night, no light came in under the door. I could not even find the hole if I had wanted to. If I was desperate, I had to search with my hand. When I found it, the hole was always slimy with the filth that had gone in before. After a few days, the hole filled up and overflowed so that I could no longer lie down without wallowing in my own waste. Good Lord. The guards mocked him and taunted Huey throughout this entire ordeal, right? So it's not bad enough that you're in solitary. They're also getting mocked and made fun of as they're going through this. He was given 15 days, right? 15 days, the guards figured he would break. Quote, I had been told I would break before the 15 days were up. Most men did. After 2 or 3 days, they would begin to scream and beg for someone to come and take them out. But to tell the truth, after 2 or 3 days, I was in bad shape. Why I would not break, I do not know. Stubbornness, probably. I did not want to beg. So, the point of this episode in discussing Huey's time in jail is to really talk about that mental resilience that he built up. The type of mental strength and resilience that is required to survive such a torturous situation. And then what we wanted to do is explore how this foundation of resilience was transferred into his revolutionary organization, which, as we all know, is the Black Panther Party for self-defense. All right. So this was key. This was a foundational event in Huey's life. It was really important for Huey to develop this mental strength because it transferred over into his endeavors with the party. Now, we're going to talk about how he controlled his thoughts, okay? So this is really interesting. And this is another key point because in order to have the armed confrontations with police that the Black Panthers were most famous for, you had to have a lot of self-control, right? Because we're in a very, very racially heated period of time. There's a lot of emotions, a lot of passion back and forth. And to be harassed by the police and then have to confront them armed without shooting, without there being violence between the Panthers and the police, it took a lot of mental strength. It took a lot of self-control. So we're going to talk about this situation, all right? This is directly from Revolutionary Suicide, all right? Quote, outside jail, the brain is always being bombarded by external stimuli. These ordinary sights and sounds of life help keep our mental processes in order. In order and rational. In deprivation, you have to somehow replace the stimuli. Provide an interior environment for yourself. The pleasant thought comes, and then another, and another, like quick cuts flashing vividly across a movie screen. At first, they are organized. Then they start to pick up speed, pushing in on top of one another, going faster, faster, faster. The pleasant thoughts are not so pleasant now. They are horrible and grotesque caricatures whirling around in your head. That's insane. But after a while, Newton had complete mastery of his thoughts. He could start them and stop them. He could slow them down and speed them up. And it was a conscious exercise. Early on, he was really, really worried about losing control. He thought his mind would explode. His brain would just blow apart because of all the thoughts that were coming in, all the vivid images. But he learned on his own, right, how to do these Buddhist meditation poses. He would just end up on his back because he was so tired from standing up all day. And he would learn breathing patterns, how to control your thoughts, how to control your posture to make yourself more comfortable in confined spaces. So all this stuff was critical to Huey surviving in solitary confinement. Now, if you want to learn more, man, you got to listen to the podcast. All right, I'm giving you all of it. This is a very long outline, and I'm not giving you guys everything. Remember, tune in to the A.P.E Academy podcast. We got another podcast coming out tomorrow. We try to do it every 2 or 3 days. We need our research time to look up facts and make sure we vet everything. So I hope you guys are having a great Valentine's Day so far. The only reason why I'm able to do this is because my wife is doing something for her sorority, so she's busy. But I will soon be busy myself. Hope you guys have a great Valentine's Day. Thank you for listening. Love y'all. Stay safe. Stay positive. Put God first. A.P.E.